Imagine waking up one morning and noticing that your life has been arranged like a grocery store display. The colors are pleasing, the choices seem endless, and you feel lighter for having chosen the brand everyone else buys. Then you realize the choice you made was not really a choice at all. It was a habit handed to you by a culture that rewards sameness. That moment of wakefulness is the cruelest and the most liberating thing you can experience. It is the hinge of a new life. What you do next is the question this work wants to answer. Nietzsche looked at that grocery store life and called it herd morality. He saw a mass of people who accept values without testing them. He did not tell us to rebel for the sake of rebellion. He invited a deeper work, to examine the values that shape you and to begin a disciplined practice of value creation. He named the result the Übermensch, not a superhero, but someone who learns to take responsibility for the meaning of their life. That is the promise and the danger. Promise because you can become an author of values. Danger because it asks for solitude, risk, and courage. But how do you move from the dull comfort of the herd to the sharp, vulnerable edge of self-creation without falling into arrogance, despair, or cruelty? This is where Jung and existentialism help. Jung teaches that the self is not only conscious choice. The psyche hides parts of itself in shadow. Those parts are not evil. They are unclaimed energies, desires, fears, and talents. If you try to be yourself without meeting your shadow, you will merely act out hidden scripts. Existentialism presses the point further. Freedom brings responsibility. When you see that your values are optional, you must decide. Choosing is terrifying, but deciding with eyes open is what gives life weight. So the path looks like this. First, wake up. Then, diagnose. Then, practice. That is the foundation. This segment gives you the wake up and the first tools. Later sections will teach deeper practices. For now, learn 3 simple habits that rewire how you respond to the herd. These 3 habits, notice, revalue, converse, are not heroic actions. They are simple, stubborn, daily operations. They create a new nervous system choreography. Over time, you will feel less pulled by herd pulls and more guided by an inner sense of taste and responsibility. Now, a question you are likely asking, isn't Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch cold or elitist? History warns us about misreadings that justified cruelty. We will not be naive. Nietzsche himself was messy and complex. The ethical heart of his teaching is creative responsibility. The Overman is meant to be an artist of values, someone who refuses reactive hate and instead makes life beautiful and meaningful. Integrating Jung and existentialism keeps this creative force grounded. Jung reminds us to integrate what we repress. Existentialism reminds us to accept the burden of freedom. Together, they prevent value creation from becoming value imposition. Here's an image that helps. Imagine a river. The herd floats like foam on the river's surface. They are carried. An individual path person is not trying to be stranded on the bank alone. Instead, they learn to swim with the current while steering towards sources of water that feed the river creatively. They do not fight the river by brute force. They learn to move with attention and craft. That is Nietzsche's art of becoming, informed by Jung's inner map and existential honesty. Before you push this aside as too spiritual or too abstract, consider the neuroscience. Habit rewiring and reflective practice change brain networks. Noticing reduces reactive amygdala responses. Revaluation acts like cognitive therapy. It creates new narratives. Shadow work integrates disowned emotional patterns, reducing projective conflict. This is practical remodeling of mind and life. It is not magic. It is method. One more micro challenge, because habits need small wins. For the next 7 days, pick one chair in your home or workplace to be your honesty chair. For 5 minutes each day, sit there and answer 2 questions in a journal. What did I do today that felt automatic? What did I do today that felt like a choice? Keep your answers without judgment. The honesty chair trains attention, and attention is the raw material of freedom. If you try these practices and nothing dramatic happens, that is normal. Transformation is noisy and slow, but small shifts accumulate. The first visible change is fewer automatic apologies, fewer small performances. The second is a new appetite for solitude that feels like refuge, not punishment. The third is a surge of creative energy you did not expect, new ideas, new projects, new courage. What follows in the next parts is a deeper map. We will trace how herd values formed historically, how resentment turns power into reactive morals, and how you can use active exercises from Jung, Stoicism, and Eastern practice to stabilize your inner sovereignty. We will also examine the pitfalls, the narcissism of self-creation, the temptation to despise others, the danger of isolating brilliance without care. For now, your task is simple. Practice noticing, practice revaluation, practice conversation with your shadow. These 3 small acts open a new door. One last question to hold on to. What value could you create today that your future self would thank you for? Hold that question like a compass. In the next section, we will take that compass and map a route through Nietzsche's provocations, Jung's depths, and practices that stick. If you are still here, you are ready to begin. There is a moment late at night when the city quiets and your mind finally stops scrolling, where you hear 2 voices inside you. One sounds like the radio familiar, tuned to the station of public opinion, soothing in its sameness. The other is quieter, rougher, asking a single blunt question. Who are you willing to be if you stop following the playlist? That blunt question is the hinge of real work. It is the place where Nietzsche's provocation, Jung's depth, and existential responsibility meet practical habit. This segment is the iron triangle: diagnosis, inner map, disciplined practice. We will go deep enough to change how you live. Nietzsche's diagnosis is sharp. Herd morality seduces us with safety. It offers rules that cost little but take everything. When values come pre-packaged, do this, don't do that, you trade your authorship for comfort. Nietzsche says you must become an artist of values, not in a trendy way, but as a craftsman who makes a life worth inhabiting. He calls this self-making, the will to power, not raw domination, but the creative force that shapes motives, roles, and the kind of person you become. That creative force, however, can be blind. This is Jung's contribution. The will to power that is not integrated becomes a tyrant, quick to assert, quick to blame. Jung taught that parts of us live in shadow, not out of malice, but because the mind hides what it cannot bear. Those hidden parts become projections. You see in others what you will not see in yourself. The herd becomes a mirror for unclaimed parts. So Nietzsche tells you to create values. Jung tells you to know which parts of yourself are steering the creation. Together, they stop value creation from becoming a blinding ego game. Existentialism joins them by refusing escape. Freedom is not escape from obligations. Freedom is the weight of choosing in a world that gives no guarantees. Sartre's blunt point is, when you choose for everyone. Your choices embody a picture of human life. That gravity is not punishment. It is dignity. It means when you decide to stop echoing the herd, You accept the loneliness and the gift of responsibility. How does this look in practice? First, map the lies. Start with 3 questions you ask yourself automatically. They are simple. Why am I doing this? Who will approve? What do I fear losing? Answer them quickly, without polishing. The speed makes you honest. The answers reveal whether your will is yours or borrowed. When Nietzsche asks you to revalue, he means start here, refuse default answers. Create answers you can live with when the applause stops. Second, track the shadow dynamics. Imagine a moment this week when you felt disproportionately angry or ashamed. Don't analyze to win an argument. Ask a soft question. What is this emotion trying to show me about my missing part? If you felt rage at someone's success, maybe a part of you wants recognition you denied yourself. If you felt shame at a simple mistake, perhaps you learned early that error meant danger. Name it. Put it on paper. Give the feeling a simple sentence. I am afraid of being seen as small. Or, I want power, but I hide it from myself. That naming slices projection. You begin to own your inner life rather than outsource it to the crowd. Third, adopt a testing ritual. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence thought experiment is dramatic. Could you live this life, every detail, forever? You don't need to accept metaphysics to use it. Use it as a compass. Which choices make you want to say yes? Which make you shiver? Once a week, list 1 action you will take that answers the shudder with a yes. Small acts matter. Declining a social invitation that drains you, finishing a project that only you care about. Saying what you feel, not what you think, will win nods. These are the quiet strokes of self-making. Now, a critical warning. Individuality without integration becomes arrogance. Nietzsche's call is not license to dismiss others. Real strength listens. Jung reminds us that a healthy self includes the capacity for empathy, precisely because it has confronted its shadow. Existential responsibility includes moral imagination, asking how your freedom affects others. When you practice, include a relational test. Ask, does this choice create more life for others, or merely power for myself? If the answer leans toward narrowing others, adjust. The point is to forge character that enlarges, not one that crushes. Let's ground this with a concrete exercise you can do in public. Choose a conversation this week. A meeting, a family dinner, a friend group. For 5 minutes, practice and experiment in honest but gentle refusal. When a topic invites you into habitual agreement, pause. Say, I've thought about that, and I see differently. Offer a short reason that is yours, not borrowed. The first pause will feel heavy. You may be tempted to smooth it over. Don't. The pause trains your nervous system to tolerate social friction. Nietzsche calls that courage. Jung calls it individuation. Existentialists call it living in good faith. There is also an inner discipline borrowed from Stoicism that supports this work: the dichotomy of control. List what is within your control regarding the choices you face. The list is shorter than you think. Your judgments, your effort, your response. The herd thrives because it fixes on externals: applause, status, labels. Practice shifting from external metrics to internal ones. Tonight, before you sleep, write down 1 metric you used today that was external and replace it with an internal one. If you measured your worth by likes, replace it with the metric: did I act with integrity today? Small reframes rewire valuation. Another powerful resource is Taoist Wu Wei, acting without forcedness. The paradox here heals the Nietzschean drive. Will to power without flow becomes compulsion. Flow without will dissolves into passivity. The art is to act with spirited purpose while remaining open to correction. Practically, this means set a clear intention, then let execution be responsive. You plan and you listen. You push and you receive. That balance keeps creation alive and humane. You will meet resistance. Expect it. Family, co-workers, even your own past praise will try to drag you back into the playlist. This is where community matters. Nietzsche's Übermensch is not a solitary tyrant. He is someone who can return to build with others who value depth. Find 2 or 3 people who will let you practice saying no and who will call you when you spin into arrogance. Small communities hold the risk of solitude while preventing isolation. Finally, mark progress with rituals, not results. The herd counts wins like a scoreboard. You will fail that way. Instead, mark the practices. Today, I noticed. I named. I chose. Those are the real currency. Over months, the sound of the radio will feel less compelling. You will learn to make choices that hold weight in your chest. That is a different kind of success. What we have done here is practical philosophy. We took Nietzsche's fire, Jung's map, existential responsibility, Stoic steadiness, and Taoist flow, and turned them into habits you can test in daily life. The next section will trace genealogy in richer detail and give structured shadow work sequences you can follow over a month. For now, pick one real choice, small, brave, and make it yours. When you do, notice the strange quiet that follows. That quiet is the beginning of a new voice. Keep listening. There is a final test in this work, and it is practical. Philosophy stops being theory when it changes your mornings. The question now becomes simple. How do you turn insight into habit? And how do you keep your inner art honest, useful, and kind? This final part gives you a practical program and a way to close the loop. It gives rules that are tools, not prisons. Use them, drop them, refine them. They are meant to make you less of a passenger and more of a maker. Begin with the weekly audit. Once every 7 days, set a 20-minute room for reflection. Not a broad list of moral catastrophes. Keep it narrow. Ask 3 clear questions. Where did I act from habit this week? Where did I create value for myself or others? What small guilt or projection kept showing up? Write without polish. The audit does 2 things. It trains attention. It converts vague unease into visible patterns. Nietzsche wanted you to be fierce with values. This audit is fierce in a tender way. It asks you to take care of your moral lab. Next, build a courage ladder. Small acts, stacked build spine. Choose one item you will do each day for 30 days, each slightly harder than the last. Day 1. Refuse one unnecessary apology. Day 5. Speak an honest boundary in a non-urgent situation. Day 12. Finish one project you started and abandoned. Day 20. Voice a careful disagreement in a group. The latter is not about proving toughness. It is practice for tolerating friction when your choice differs from the crowd. Nietzsche called it self-overcoming. Jung called it integrating the parts. The latter trains both. Bring ritual into ordinary time. Rituals are the scaffolding of transformation. Choose a morning ritual that centers you. It can be 10 minutes of quiet, writing 2 sentences of what you intend to honor today, and reading 1 line of a text that holds you steady. Marcus Aurelius on control, a short stanza from Zarathustra, a line from Laozi. The morning ritual aligns will and attention. In the evening, do a return ritual. 1 sentence on what you learned and 1 small act of gratitude. These rituals are the daily plumbing of character. Over months, they change taste, and taste determines action. Design a shadow practice. Once a week, pick one uncomfortable emotion you felt: envy, shame, anger. Sit with it 10 minutes and ask 2 questions. What is this emotion asking for? What is it protecting me from? Write the answers. Then ask, how could this part be used creatively rather than projected? If envy wants recognition, can you channel it into craft? If shame protects you from risk, can you offer a small, safe experiment instead of withdrawal? This practice turns reactive energy into fuel. It keeps Nietzsche's will to power from becoming a weapon. It keeps Jung's insight active. Create 3 filters before you post, speak, or decide. First, is this true? Second, is this kind? Third, is this necessary? These are not moralistic breaks. They are calibration checks. Social media and the herd run on shareable emotion. The filter slows you down. True plus kind plus necessary is rare. Use the filter to reduce noise. You will notice less regret and more depth in what you do, publish, and voice. Now, practice creative value creation. Pick one project that cannot be measured in likes. A poem, a piece of craft, a small community project, a work of repair, a relationship mending. Commit 6 months. Nietzsche's will to power is not meaning without work. It is the artistry of sustained creation. Your project is the place you test your values. It exposes where you are honest and where you are still imitating applause. Join a forming community. The danger in all this is twofold: solitude that becomes brittle, and community that becomes a new herd. Look for groups that value difference and learning. A community for individuation might be a small discussion circle, a craft collective, a volunteer team. Agree on clear norms, curiosity, accountability, no quick fixes. Communities give you mirrors and limits. They keep your refinement honest and prevent private grandiosity. Expect setbacks and plan for them. There will be days you revert to the playlist. Don't moralize failure. Map it. What triggered the retreat? Hunger, fear. Interestingly, praise can trigger it. Collapse into curiosity, not shame. Use your audit to find patterns. If one kind of situation knocks you down, design a safety step for it. Grace is not softness. It is the engineering of return. As you practice, you will notice subtle shifts. People will still try to herd you. Old friendships may strain. New ones will form. The aim is not to be apart for the vanity of being apart. The aim is to belong from a different place, a place of choice and craftsmanship. Nietzsche did not want solitary tyrants. He imagined creators who make new songs for humanity. Jung did not want lonely prophets. He imagined whole persons who can live in relationship without losing depth. Your work is to become that person. There is a moral test I invite you to adopt. Does your individuality increase life around you? This is a non-trivial question. Creativity can come in forms that crush others. Power can become a private theater of cruelty. Test your acts by their ripple. When your actions create beauty, freedom, or courage in others, you are moving from ego to genuine individuality. When your acts isolate and silence, step back and examine the shadow. This test keeps Nietzsche's radical call tethered to Jungian integration and existential ethics. Now for the conclusion. The path is long but simple in steps. Notice what is automatic. Name your shadow. Make small, steady choices. Build rituals. Create more than you critique. Join careful community. Measure your effect by how much life increases, not by applause. These moves create a life that can stand rereading, a life you could accept under the eternal recurrence test, if you like Nietzsche's drama. When you walk away from this series, take one question with you. What melody could you begin today that your future self will thank you for? Answer with a plan. One small habit, one project, one person to practice with. Write it down. Return to it weekly. That is philosophy as practice. That is Nietzsche with a map. That is Jung with a ritual. That is an answer to the herd. Not a loud protest, but a life that holds weight. If you do this, you will not only stop being part of the herd, you will become someone whose presence invites others to wake up too.